Good evening, y'all. It's Sunday, August 1st. Welcome back to another edition of the Wildcats and Then Some podcast. I'm your host, Deshaun. Y'all like my shirt? Yeah, it's an old shirt. I got this my freshman year when I was at the University of Kentucky. That was 2007. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's kind of baggy, very loose fitting, but hey, that was the style of clothing back in 2007. It wasn't about the tight shirts. It was about the big baggy shirts. Even if you were, even if you're a small guy like me, I mean, I wear a medium. Well, before I gained weight, I was a medium. Now I wear large. But yeah, a small person like myself, if I wore medium, I'd wear an extra large instead, because that was the style way back in 2007, which it don't seem like it was that long ago, but 2007 was 14 years ago. Ain't that's crazy, man? 14 years ago, but I still remember most of my time at Kentucky like it was yesterday. Um, it's not a lot of new news in the world of Kentucky sports. Dante Allen signed a name, image, and likeness deal with Bojangles. I don't know how much money it's paying him, but again, I'm glad the NCAA is letting their amateur athletes make money off their name, image, and likeness. Because everyone that plays college sports, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, tennis, golf, whatever, everybody's not going to make it professional. So it's good for them because they can leave school with some money in their pocket. Maybe six figures. Hell, it might just be $30,000, $40,000, but it's better than leaving college empty-handed, I guess. That's what I would say. I mean, it's only right that the players get a piece of the pie, because let me say it for y'all that can't hear me, it ain't right that the NCAA and these schools can make millions, sometimes billions of dollars, and the kids can't get a piece of the pie. I mean, if John Calipari can get paid $8 million a year, why can't the players get some money? You know what I'm saying? But speaking of Calipari, speaking of our players, shout out to Isaiah Jackson. Shout out to BJ Boston. Both of them got drafted this past Thursday night. Isaiah was a first-round draft pick. He was picked by the Lakers, but then he was traded to the Wizards so the Lakers could get Russell Westbrook. But then the Wizards traded Isaiah Jackson to the Indiana Pacers. So, for all you Kentucky fans, if you're a Pacers fan, hey, Indianapolis is only about 2-3 hours away if you live in Kentucky, depending on what part exactly. But if you want to go check out Isaiah Jackson, it's only a short drive. He'll only be a short drive away. Now, BJ, though, he going back home. He was drafted, I believe he was drafted by the Grizzlies, but then they traded him to the Clippers. So, assuming he stays on the roster and doesn't get cut, BJ will be suiting up for the Clippers. Now, with Isaiah Jackson getting drafted first round, this now makes 11 years in a row that Kentucky has had at least one player get drafted in the first round. And that's crazy when you think about it, because I remember when Toby Smith was our coach, and some years we might have a first round draft pick, some years we don't, some years we didn't have any players get drafted. I mean, every year I was just sitting there wondering, like, man, why does Duke and North Carolina always have these guys get drafted first round, but not Kentucky? But I mean, I'm glad to see it, but I do want to see us win. I do want to see us win championships. I mean, it's good that we are competitive most years, well, except for last year. But I do want to see us win another championship or two before Calipari decides to call it quits. Because we're sitting at 8 right now. We just need 3 more to pass UCLA. Or excuse me, we need 3 more to tie UCLA, and 4 more to pass the UCLA. And you know, since UCLA isn't elite like they used to be, I mean, we can definitely gain some ground on them. So come on, Coach Cal, we need you to at least get a couple more championships. You know, yeah, it all started back in the 2010 draft when we had 5 first round draft picks, which is which tied an NBA record. We had John Wall get drafted, DeMarcus Cousins, Eric Bledsoe, Patrick Patterson, and Daniel Orton. And then in 2011, we had Brandon Knight get drafted in the first round. Enes Kanter, if you want to count him. 2012, we had Anthony Davis, Terrence Jones, Marcus Teague, and Michael Kidd Gilchrist get drafted first round. 2013, it was Nerlens Noel and Archie Goodwin. 2014, it was Julius Randle and James Young. 2015, it was Karl Anthony Towns, Willie Cauley-Stein, Trey Lyles, and Devin Booker. 2015, it was that was 2015. Excuse me. 2016, we had Jamal Murray and Scala Bissiere get drafted first round. 2017, we had De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, and Bam Adebayo. 2018, we had Kevin Knox and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander get drafted first round. 2019, Keldon Johnson, Tyler Hero, and PJ Washington. 2020, Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickley. And then this year, Isaiah. Now, hopefully everything works out for them, especially BJ, because it's hard to make it. I mean, when you're a second round draft pick, yeah, you got to work even harder just to get on the roster, just to get minutes. First round draft picks typically don't have to work that hard. Typically, the late first round draft picks, they might spend a little bit of time in the G League, but they will eventually get some minutes in the NBA. At least that's how it was for Keldon Johnson. Keldon, for most of his rookie year, was in the G League, but towards the end of his rookie year, he started getting some playing time. And then this year, as a second-year player, Keldon Johnson was a starter for most of the Spurs games. And now he's playing on Team USA, and hopefully he'll help us bring home the gold medal. But yeah, BJ, I mean, maybe playing in his hometown and not having all the weight of the world on his shoulders will help him get back to his game. Because I remember watching him in high school. He looked pretty good. He looked like a future star in the making. But yeah, things didn't work out for him at Kentucky. But I believe in him. He's got my support. Hopefully he'll turn into a star. If not, hopefully he'll just have a long NBA career. Now, I know all you Kentucky haters are probably tired of hearing about Kentucky, so I'm moving on now to talk about the NBA Finals. Yeah. The Bucks closed out the Suns in Game 6. Now, I will be honest, I was rooting for the Suns for a couple reasons. Devin Booker for one, and the other was Chris Paul. I wanted to see Chris Paul win a championship ring so he could cement himself as a top 3 point guard of all time. Unfortunately, things didn't play out that way. Phoenix won the first 2 games of the series, but then they lost 4 straight. The only other NBA team to do that was my team, the Dallas Mavericks, back in 2006. We went up 2-0 against the Miami Heat. Then they beat us in 4. They turned around and won 4 straight. I still think they cheated, but it is what it is. We got our payback on Miami. It was an entertaining finals, even though there were no super teams involved, even though the Lakers and Nets, which is what most people, myself included, thought that Lakers-Nets was going to be the 2021 NBA Finals. But Lakers got beat in the first round, and Brooklyn got beat in the second round. Now, granted, if AD didn't get hurt, yeah, the Suns wouldn't have made it to the finals. I believe that. Now, I'm not saying the Lakers would have went to the finals if AD wasn't hurt, but if AD was healthy, I think they would have lost that series. If Kevin Durant's toe was just 2 inches back, Brooklyn would have beat Milwaukee. Now, I'm not saying Brooklyn would have went on to win the championship, but it's a good chance they would have. But yeah, basketball can be a game of inches, just like football. Because, again, if Kevin Durant's toe wasn't so damn long, it would have been a 3-point shot. It would have been game over. I'm happy for the Bucks, but one thing that I'm annoyed with is all these narratives that have come out since Milwaukee won. When Giannis was named Finals MVP, and for good reason, he was great the whole series, In game 6, he had 50 points. I think he had like 13 rebounds and 5 blocks. He went 17 of 19 from the free throw line. It was well deserved. And then Giannis goes on a rant talking about he could have left, joined the super team, but he wanted to do it the hard way. And I'm just like, why? I mean, I'm not mad at Giannis for wanting to stay in Milwaukee, but why even bring that up? Like, you just won the finals. If that were me and I just won Finals MVP, that's the last thing I'd be thinking about. Shoot. I mean, this whole super team stuff is just a media narrative that it's just a narrative that the media came up with to get fans talking. That's all it is. And some of the talk is just annoying as fuck. Like, you got people talking about, like, if I had $1 for every time somebody said that Giannis's championship ring is more significant than Kevin Durant's, I'd be a millionaire. I really would be. Like, it's just ridiculous. You know? It's just ridiculous. Like, super team or not, you still got to go out there and play the games. You still got to go out there and practice, put in the work after hours in order to achieve the goal of winning a championship. Believe me, I'm not a Warriors fan. I was not happy about Kevin Durant going and signing with the Warriors. But Kevin Durant earned those rings fair and square. Whether you like it or not, he earned those rings. Kevin Durant's 2 rings are not more significant or less significant than Giannis's. Like, stop with that bullshit. For real. Like, I'm tired of hearing that nonsense, man. Like, I don't like the Warriors. Kevin Durant is not my favorite player. But he earned those rings fair and square. Like, all y'all motherfuckers who talking about, oh, Kevin Durant's ring is less significant because he joined a super team. He was running from the grind. Shut the fuck up. Seriously, shut up. Like, Kevin Durant did not run from the grind or whatever the fuck you guys say. Kevin Durant earned those rings. I'm saying it like this so y'all motherfuckers can hear me. Kevin Durant earned his championship rings. Like, it is what it is. Y'all acting like this man decided he didn't want to be a star anymore, so he just went to the Warriors and rode the pine. No. Kevin Durant balled out in the finals. Now, granted, yes, I'm not saying the Warriors weren't obviously the better team, because they were. I mean, he had another superstar in Curry, a star in Klay Thompson, the best role player in the game in Draymond Green. Yes, he clearly had the better team. I'm not disputing that at all. But Kevin Durant still had to go out there and put in the work. Kevin Durant was still the best player on the Warriors. Now, Curry was the leader, but Durant was the best player. If you get my drift. I mean, just because you're the best player on your team doesn't mean you're the leader. Because, I mean, Kawhi Leonard was the best player on the Raptors, but I'd say Kyle Lowry was really the locker room leader. But that's a whole nother story for a different day. Like I was saying, Kevin Durant's rings are not more or less significant than Giannis's 1 ring. And then Kendrick Perkins, he gonna say, oh, this is a tough question, but if both of them was to retire today, who ranks higher all time, KD or Giannis? What? Like, what the hell? Was that a serious question? If both of them were to retire today, it's Kevin Durant. Like, what the hell are you smoking? Crack? Kevin Durant, man, come on. If Giannis and Kevin Durant decided to retire today, Kevin Durant is going to be ranked higher all time. I mean, Kevin Durant, he's got 2 championships. Giannis has 1. Kevin Durant has 1. They both won MVP. Kevin Durant is a scoring champion. Giannis has not won a scoring championship. Giannis, he did win Defensive Player of the Year, though. That's one thing that Kevin Durant doesn't have and probably never will get. Giannis also won Most Improved Player. Kevin Durant, he came into the league great. He was Rookie of the Year for the 07-08 season. Or was it 06-07? No, no. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was the 07-08 season. Kevin Durant was the rookie of the year. Durant has averaged 20 points per game every year that he's been in the league. Like, it's Durant. Even if we was to not put rings into the equation, if both players were to retire today, Kevin Durant ranks higher than Giannis all time. I mean, what makes Giannis? Let's just look at him from an individual basis. What makes Giannis better than Kevin Durant? I mean, he's a better defender. I'll give him that. I guess you could say he's a better playmaker too. But yeah, Durant's much better shooter, much better scorer. Durant, I would say, is better in the clutch. Like, yeah, it's Durant. I mean, Durant is, if he's not the best scorer of all time, he's top two, maybe top three. Because hell, excuse me, Kevin Durant is 7 feet tall, but he can shoot and handle the ball. He can shoot and handle the ball like Stephen Curry. Like, no 7-footer should be able to do the things that Kevin Durant does. Now, don't get me wrong, Giannis is a great talent too. Giannis has good handles. Giannis is a excellent finisher, probably the best finisher in the league, or one of them. Giannis is a hell of a defensive player. He can defend the interior. He alters shots, blocks shots. He's a great perimeter defender as well. Like, Giannis is a leader too. I mean, I'm not sure who I would say is the better leader, but if both of them retired today, Kevin Durant is the better player all time. Now, if you would have asked me this question 3 years later, my answer might change. Because Giannis has only been in the league for 8 years. He still has plenty of time to add to his resume. But right now, it's definitely Kevin Durant. You know, another narrative. Well, it's not really another narrative, but I'm just tired of this whole super team narrative. Like, yes, they exist. You don't have to be a fan of super teams, but they're not going to go away. You know, just because a player wins a championship playing on a super team does not mean his ring is less significant. I mean, if we're going to say Kevin Durant's rings are less meaningful, are we going to do the same thing for Magic Johnson? Because he was on a super team. Are we? You know what? I'm not even going to ask that. Because LeBron James gets so much hate that people will look for any excuse to discredit that man. So I'm not even going to ask about that. I already know the answer. Y'all hating ass motherfuckers. Y'all don't like to give LeBron credit for anything. So I'm not even going to ask. Or how about Larry Bird? Larry Bird was on a super team. Does his championships not count either? What about Paul Pierce? His one ring. The Celtics formed a super team just so he could get that one. Does his ring not count? Like, if you're going to say Kevin Durant's ring is less significant, then you're going to have to rewrite a lot of NBA history. But, you know, it's a good thing that the NBA record books aren't biased and irrational like the fans. Because the NBA record book is going to say the Bucks won the 2021 finals. And that's it. The NBA record... The NBA record books... There's not going to be an asterisk next to the Bucks championship saying, because the Bucks won their championship without forming a super team, the Bucks championship is more significant than the 2018 Warriors because they were a super team. No. It's just going to say that the Warriors were the champions for 2018. That's it. Like, stop with this bullshit about rings being more or less significant. Now, look, I'm not trying to change your opinions. I'm just saying, like, it makes no sense. Like, if you're gonna say Durant's ring is worthless, then we're gonna have to go back and rewrite the NBA history books, because Durant ain't the first player to win a championship playing on a super team, and he damn sure won't be the last. I mean, LeBron's been on a super team. Magic was on a super team. Bird was on a super team. Bill Russell was on a super team. Wilt Chamberlain was on a super team. Like, and enough of this bullshit. And, you know, Another, speaking of championships, that's another narrative that I'm getting tired of. I mean, I'm tired of people, especially NBA fans. Championship rings are not the end all be all. Yeah, let me grab the mic because I really want to emphasize this. Championship rings are not everything. Championship rings are not the only measure of greatness. Yes, I mean it's just I don't know. Fans nowadays can't appreciate anything. Like especially NBA fans. Like if you're not a champion, NBA fans will think you suck or they'll think you're not that good. But championship rings are not the end all be all. Championships are not the only thing that defines a player's legacy. I mean, look at Charles Barkley. He doesn't have any championship rings, but he's better than Dennis Rodman all time. And Rodman's got 5. Karl Malone also doesn't have any rings. I mean, are you seriously going to sit here and tell me that Draymond Green, who has 3 rings, is a better player all time than Karl Malone? Of course you're not. Patrick Ewing, another one. He ain't got no rings, but are you going to sit here and tell me that Dwight Howard is better than Patrick Ewing all time? No, of course you're not. Now, don't get me wrong. Dwight Howard is one of the greatest centers of all time. Dwight Howard is going to make it to the Basketball Hall of Fame. But if I had to choose between Patrick Ewing and Dwight Howard, yeah, I'm going to rank Patrick Ewing ahead of Dwight Howard. But that's just me. I don't know. Maybe someone out there thinks Dwight Howard was better than Patrick, but I have to disagree if that's what you think. But again, championship rings are not everything. Look, I get it. That's their goal. They play to win the game, but sometimes you just don't win. Man, not being a champion doesn't mean you're not great. If you had to be a championship ring to be considered great, then half these dudes that's in the Hall of Fame wouldn't even be in there. Again, Barkley ain't got no rings. Karl Malone ain't got no rings. Allen Iverson ain't got no rings. Steve Nash, I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame yet, but he will be if he isn't already. No rings. John Stockton, no rings. Chris Paul, future Hall of Famer, but still no ring. Carmelo Anthony, future Hall of Famer, no ring. It's not everything. Just because you have a ring doesn't mean you're not great. And on the flip side, just because you have more rings than somebody else doesn't mean you were better. Now before you don't even think about saying it, I'm not saying LeBron is better than Jordan. Quite frankly, I don't give a fuck about the GOAT conversation no more. You know why? Because y'all motherfuckers in social media, y'all can't give a player his flowers without shitting on somebody else. Like, y'all act like if you're a fan of Jordan, you gotta trash LeBron James. And that's not the case. You can be a fan of both players. You can say Jordan is the GOAT and still give LeBron his flowers. But most of y'all motherfuckers don't do that. So that's why I don't care about the GOAT conversation anymore. If you want to tell me Dwight Howard is the GOAT, I ain't even gonna argue with you. Just give everyone their flowers. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Just because you have more rings doesn't mean you're better than somebody who has less rings. Take, for example, Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain got 2 rings. Bill Russell has 11. But me personally, I would rank Wilt Chamberlain ahead of Bill Russell. I mean, Wilt, although I didn't get to see him play, I assume he was just as good as Bill Russell on the defensive end. And Wilt was a much better offensive player than Bill. I mean, Will scored 100 points in a game. I don't know what Bill Russell's career high is, but it ain't 100. Wilt Chamberlain once averaged 50 points per game for a season. Bill Russell ain't came nowhere close to that. Now, I'm not saying Bill Russell isn't great, but between him and Wilt, yeah, give me Wilt. Wilt's better. I would even say Hakeem Olajuwon's better, Kareem's better, Shaq, Robinson. But yeah, Bill Russell is one of the top 10 centers of all time, but I just don't think he's the GOAT center. That's all I'm saying. But of course, at the end of the day, it all boils down to opinion. But I'm not saying. But again, my point is more rings doesn't mean you're better than somebody who has less rings or no rings at all. Some people think Allen Iverson's better than Dwayne Wade all time, and Iverson has no rings. Now, I don't know. You could go either way with that one. I would probably say Dwayne Wade, even though I liked Iverson more as a player than I liked Dwayne Wade. But whatever. Yeah, championship rings again. They're not the end all be all. Like, basketball fans are the only sports fans who get punch drunk over championships. Like, I've been in, most of the time when I'm on Facebook, I spend it in sports groups discussing whatever topics with other sports fans. Whenever I talk about NFL, I rarely hear NFL fans bring up rings when they talk about greatness. Now, of course, yeah, when it comes to the quarterback position, yeah, rings do get mentioned quite a bit, but people don't use rings as the end all be all for quarterbacks or for any position in football. Because hell, I know a lot of fans who think Barry Sanders is the greatest running back of all time, which I don't have a problem with anyone saying that, but me personally, I would say Sweetness is the greatest running back of all time. But not because he has a Super Bowl ring. I mean, I just think he was. Yeah, Barry was a hell of a talent, but I think Walter was just slightly better. That's all. Hell, I've seen people say Randy Moss is the GOAT at the receiver position. Me personally, I would put Jerry Rice ahead of him, as well as Terrell Owens. But yeah, my point being, football fans do not make a fuss about championship rings. Baseball fans do not make a fuss about championship rings. Now, baseball, I really don't discuss baseball too much. I don't know who baseball fans will say the GOAT is. I've heard many fans say Barry Bonds is the GOAT of baseball, and Barry has no rings. I've heard some fans say Babe Ruth, he's got 7 rings. I've heard Willie Mays as the GOAT, and Willie's only got 1. I've heard some baseball fans talk about Mike Trout potentially being the GOAT when his career is over. But so far in his major league career, Mike Trout doesn't have any rings. But basketball fans, oh man, y'all motherfuckers think rings are the end all be all. Now I get it. Basketball is a smaller team. You only got 5 players on the basketball court versus 11 on the football field and 9 on the baseball field. But at the end of the day, they're all team sports, and nobody can win by themselves. Now, in basketball, yes, if you have two or 3 really good players who are stars, yeah, it can be easy. It can be easier for you to win a championship. But in professional sports, there are no guarantees, because we've seen teams try to put super teams together and failed, like the Lakers did twice within the last 20-something years. I remember freshman year of high school, the Lakers went out and added Gary Payton and Karl Malone to their team. And they made it to the finals, but they lost. Now I know what you're thinking, oh, but Gary Payton and Karl Malone were old. Shut up. I don't care. They were still good players at that point. It was a failed super team. Or I think it was the 2011-12 season, when the Lakers had Kobe and Pau Gasol. Then they went out and traded for Dwight Howard and added Steve Nash. Yeah, they lost in the first round of the playoffs. Another failed super team. Brooklyn, they went out and traded for Harden. They signed Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Now, I wouldn't call them a failure yet, but right now, they are a failure. I mean, I wouldn't call them a... Excuse me. Sorry. Let me rewind. Let me recollect my thoughts. Brooklyn... Until Brooklyn is dissolved and KD, Kyrie, and Harden no longer are playing together, I'm not going to say they're a failure just yet, but they did form a super team, and so far it hasn't got them a championship. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Yes, my point being, forming a super team does not guarantee a championship. Now, does it make it easier? Yeah. But at the end of the day, you still gotta go out there and practice. You still gotta go out there and play the games. I mean, you can't just sit on your ass and and get a ring that way. So yeah, I mean, enough of this shit about super teams. Another narrative that I'm tired of hearing is people claiming that Giannis won his championship rings by himself. Like, I've seen far too many people say that Giannis won by himself, and that's just bullshit. Yes, y'all do know that you don't have to be a super team to be considered good. For real. It's like y'all think if a team is not a super team, they're not good. But you don't have to be a super team in order to be. Giannis did not win his championship by himself. Like, I hate to play semantics here, but whenever I see NBA fans talk about how, oh, this player won his championship rings by himself, it just annoys the hell out of me. Now, I know you literally don't mean that, but if you're trying to say that Giannis won his championships without forming a super team, just say it. Because he didn't win by himself. And you know, yeah, Milwaukee is not a super team, but they were still good. You don't have to be super to be considered a good basketball team. Giannis has plenty of help. Chris Middleton, he's an all-star player. Chris Middleton, hell, I believe he scored 50 points in one of these playoff games, or close to it. Hell, Chris Middleton closed it out. He balled out against the Hawks. The Bucks won Game 5 and 6 without Giannis. So he got plenty of help. He's got a star in Chris Middleton. He's got Drew Holiday, who is arguably one of the best two-way guards in the league. He's got good role players, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, who was their sixth man this year, PJ Tucker, Pat Connaughton, Dante DiVincenzo, which he couldn't play because of injuries, but Giannis has a good team around him. It ain't like when you tell me a player won by themselves, you're pretty much saying he won with a bunch of scrubs. And that ain't true. Milwaukee is not a bunch of scrubs. Giannis did not carry this team to a championship. Like, stop with this bullshit about players winning by themselves. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you was on a super team or if you was on a normal NBA team. If you won a championship, you're a fucking champion. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to change your opinion, but I do think it's dumb that y'all think that way. Like, enough. A champion is a champion. Giannis is not a more significant champion than Kevin Durant, or a less significant champion. They're both champions. Now, if you want to say that Giannis is better than Kevin Durant, yeah, go ahead. I mean, I don't know who I would say the best player is in the NBA going into next year. I mean, if you say Giannis, I wouldn't be mad at that. But he ain't win by himself. That's all I'm saying. He had plenty of help. Just because, again, yeah, let me say it one more time so y'all can hear me. Just because a player is not on a super team does not mean his team sucks. Just because a team is not a super team does not mean they're not good. Shit. Like, y'all kill me with that nonsense. Like, it's not super team or bust. I mean, you can be a good basketball team without being considered super. But let's be honest. No, you know what? I ain't even gonna say it. You know, I was gonna say the Bucks had luck on their side as well because there was an unusual number of injuries this year. Yeah, I know the Bucks had Dante DiVincenzo out due to injury, but DiVincenzo, he ain't an AD. The Lakers lost him in Game 5. He tried to play in Game 6, but he re-aggravated his injury and couldn't go. DiVincenzo's not Jamal Murray, who's the Nuggets' second best player and scorer. Who else was injured? Kawhi Leonard. Clippers lost him after the second round. And he didn't even play in the Western Conference Finals. Boston was without Marcus Smart. No, not Marcus Smart, excuse me. They was without Jaylen Brown. Yeah, there was just an unusual number of injuries this year. Now, yes, injuries are part of the game. No excuse. But and literally every playoff team had a major player injured, and that is unusual, but that's because of the shortened off season. Now, can Milwaukee repeat? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying they won't, but next year it'll be a lot harder, especially if there aren't as many injuries next year. Because, yeah, Brooklyn, they're going to retool so they can hopefully get to the championship next year. The Lakers are going to retool. Speaking of which, they already have. They traded Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Montrezl Harrell, their first-round draft pick, which was Isaiah Jackson, to the Wizards for Russell Westbrook. Now, if the Lakers are healthy, yeah, they might make it back to the finals this year, maybe. Westbrook, yeah, I know he can't shoot. I know he's not a good shooter, but he does give them another playmaker, so LeBron doesn't have to handle all the playmaking duties by himself. Now, Lakers, though, they're going to have to fill out their roster, probably with a bunch of old players who are willing to sign for the veteran minimum. Because they really ain't, I don't know who's on their damn roster now. I know they got Westbrook, LeBron, AD, Taylor Horton Tucker, and Alex Caruso, but the rest of the team, I don't know who's on the team for them. But yeah, it ain't just the Lakers that are going to try to retool. The Warriors are going to try to retool. I'm sure the Nuggets are going to try. Well, literally every team is going to try to get better. But as far as like the teams that have a real shot at a championship, yeah, they're not going to rest on their laurels. Excuse me. The Warriors, Lakers, Nuggets, maybe Brooklyn, Boston, Philly. They're not just going to sit and hang tight and not try to improve. But yeah, enough about the finals. Even though football season is among us, I am excited about next year in the NBA. We've already seen Westbrook get traded. Now it'll be interesting to see who else moves. Philadelphia this offseason has tried really hard to move Ben Simmons, and they've had no luck. Now, if the rumors are to be true, Philadelphia should have accepted the trade that... not Milwaukee. Philadelphia should have accepted the trade that Indiana was going to give them. There was a rumor floating around, I think back in early June or mid-June, that the Pacers offered Malcolm Brogdon and their first-round draft pick for Ben Simmons, and Philly said no. If that rumor is true, and Philly declined it, they probably should have accepted. Because when I read some of these trade requests that Philly made for Ben Simmons, it just made me laugh. They reached out to the Warriors, and the Warriors were like, nah, player, you asking for too much, dog. Philadelphia wanted Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors' 2 first-round draft picks in the 2021 draft, James Wiseman, and I believe they wanted Eric Paschall too. And the Warriors were like, bruh, you asking for too much, dog. Mm-mm. And another rumor that I heard was that Philadelphia made a trade offer to the Raptors. The Raptors get Ben Simmons, and in exchange, the 76ers get Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, and I think a future first-round draft pick. And the Raptors are like, you crazy. I don't blame either team. I'm not saying Ben Simmons is a bad basketball player, but he could be a lot better than what he is. Yeah, he's great on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, he's a great defender, he's a great playmaker, but he be acting like he's scared to shoot. You've been in the league since 2016, and you have yet to show any improvement on your jump shot. You ain't gotta be Stephen Curry, but dude, you're hurting your team by not working on your offensive game. You're hurting your team by not being much of a scoring threat. Even though the finals is over and done with, I'm still confused as to why Ben Simmons in the second round of the playoffs passed up an easy 2 points to try to create for Matisse Thybulle. Why? Like, Ben, you're 6'10". Trae Young is 6'1". Why didn't you just dunk on his ass and get the 2 points? Like, Trae Young, he ain't got hops like that. He can't jump up and block you. Like, why didn't you just dunk on him? If you miss the free throw, it is what it is. But like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. See, if Ben Simmons played more like Giannis, hell, that would really help his game. Because, I mean, look at Giannis. Giannis is not a good shooter. He's not a good shooter. I mean, sometimes he could hit the mid-range jump shot, but he's never been a three-point threat. And he's never been a good free throw shooter, but he still plays aggressive. He still tries to draw fouls. He will still shoot the mid-range jumpers and the threes just to keep the defense honest. If Ben did that, hell, that would open his game up a lot. But for some reason, he won't do it. And now Philadelphia's stuck with him, unless somebody is willing to take on Ben Simmons. But so far, they ain't having no luck. I mean, I feel kind of bad for him, but at the same time, it's just like, that's what you get for drafting him. But anyways, y'all, I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Sunday. Be on the lookout for another episode of Wildcats and Then Some. I'm Deshaun, your favorite Wildcat fan, your favorite host. I'm out of here.